Welcome, I'm the DeadwoodJedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video. We're on the test server today. We're going to take a look at Graazur Iron Gut. This guy is amazing. He's a new S tier champion. This is like, I wish this guy was the fusion because I would 100% recommend everybody try to get him. So this guy's going to be an amazing champion for you if you are fortunate enough to get him. His kit synergizes extremely well. He's useful in pretty much, I think I can say literally every area of this game. Obviously, depending on where you are in the game, he's going to be more useful in some spots than others. But regardless, this guy is, I would say, not better than, but of, I mean, I'd say there's an argument to say this guy's better than Krisk. I wouldn't say that personally, but I'd say there's an argument for that because this guy really does a lot for your team. So what I want to do is today I want to show you the build that I'm using for him to test him today, which I think is going to be a great build. And we're going to take him into Hydra. And so this is kind of for Hydra. But I think this build is one I would recommend using for something like Hydra. And then after that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about some other builds and other ways to build this champion. Because the most interesting thing about Graazur is he is I think, one of the more flexible champions when it comes to building him. So let's jump into the run so you can kind of see how this guy performs. Hey, just a friendly reminder, if you haven't already, take a moment and hit that subscribe button as well as that notification bell so you don't miss the next one of these videos that comes out. And of course, if you guys need help with your account, you can go to my website, DeadwoodJedi.com, where I'll be happy to look at your squad and make whatever improvements are needed to be made. But, you know, when I'm doing that, I still want to play my own account. That's why I use BlueStacks, which you'll find linked down below in the pinned comment and description of this video. BlueStacks is a great way to run multiple instances of the game on your computer at the same time. And if you enjoyed today's music, we have that SoundStripe link down below in the pinned comment and description of this video as well. Use code DeadwoodJedi, save 15%. So I'm going to bring him into my Nightmare Hydra team. Now, normally I have a Krizia, but I took a Krizia out and put Iron Gut in. Now, I'm not expecting us to do the same kind of damage because a Krizia is flat out broken when it comes to Hydra. But I am interested to see how much damage we can do. Now, obviously, it's a top tier team, right? We've got, you know, Husk, I've got Geomancer in there, we've got Ugo, we've got Sify, we've got Krisk. So definitely have some good champions. That's not even a question. The question is, how well does he perform in this team? And what I think is really interesting is he synergizes really well with this team, just as I think he'll synergize really well with almost any team you want to bring him in. So let's go ahead. We're going to jump in here. Now, Nightmare is the highest level, right? So as we go in, I have it all set for auto, right? The first thing you're going to note, first thing he does is he places that, you know, provoke. He does that increased resistance, the increased defense. His second skill is going to extend all those buffs and do a big max HP hit like you just saw right there. The last skill he has is A1, it places basically a shield on everybody. Not a huge deal, that skill. What's really cool about this guy is everything kind of works in synergy. By extending the duration of those buffs, if you place the increased resistance and increased defense first, it means it's going to stay on your team for the full fight. All these skills are on 3-turn cooldowns, which is kind of nuts. His max HP hit, it obviously hits super hard. I don't have him decked out to the nines. There's no savage gear here. There's no big crit damage gloves even on. I think I have HP gloves on him. We do have 100% crit rate. We do have some crit damage, but it's not like he's going crazy with those numbers. And yet you're going to see we're still going to get stupid damage from him. Part of that is every skill is a damage ability. Now look, you can see all his damage, he just went down to 0, but he has that passive, which gives him that unkillable. If I can get him to take his A2, that big max HP hit, he'll heal up, which would be absolutely phenomenal for us. But you know, until then, we might suffer a little bit, right? It's not like a perfect team here, and that Head of Wrath is obviously gonna cause us some issues. I do have it on auto, so I don't know exactly how this is gonna work. But the reason why I brought him in here is he has a provoke. So, you know, him paired with someone like Krisk, between the two of them should hopefully be able to keep that Head of Decay, the provoke up, for the full fight, which is kind of one of the goals I want here. The increased resistance helps prevent any head of mischief from stealing our buffs. That was a big hit right there. He heals up full when that happens, which is just amazing. But having that increased resistance is going to help Krisk resist getting his buff stolen, right? We have a secondary extender, right? So it's not just Krisk anymore, it's Iron Gut as well. So between the two of them, we're keeping all these buffs up on pretty much all of our champions full time. That means that increased speed is more effective. That means increased defense is more effective. The block debuff is more effective. The ally protection is more effective. So it does a better job of keeping everybody alive as well. So there's a lot to like about it. You can see the size of these hits. We're already beating down these boss heads pretty quick. And what I think is interesting is like these top level nightmare teams are always going to have 3 big damage dealers, right? Some combination of Acrizia, Royal Guard, Michinaki, Husk, and Geomancer. It's really those 5 are the ones you're going to use. And it's going to be some combination of that, right? Well, Iron Gut can now be thrown into that mix. Not only are all of his attacks AoE, but they all can hit decently hard. You can see even on any of these AoEs, we're doing 20, 30,000 damage on these heads, even if they're not already decapitated, right? They're not popped. We're just doing that kind of damage normally. That's a really high amount when you're thinking it's an AoE hit. And a lot of champions won't do that even if you're single target hitting, right? Where you have better multipliers going on. So a very effective champion. And of course, having all those buffs up help our survival. Having all the extension helps keep them up. Now, I have heard there's always a fear that when you have a champion like this who brings in increased resistance, Oella was kind of the same thing, or you bring in counterattack, these buffs that you really don't want the enemy heads to have, there's always a chance that they're going to get stolen, right? There's that 3% chance that any resistance is going to fail. I don't see that as a huge issue. After doing Hydra for a little bit now, one of the things is you just deal with that, right? Either one, you can always reset, restart, or 2, you just deal with it. You can deal with it in a couple ways. You can bring in a champion like Uko who can steal buffs. You can bring in a champion like Ugo who can put up block buffs. Those are always options for you, I think, when it comes to these. And I think those are sometimes heavily preferred. Now, I do, yeah. So, like, I don't know. I don't really have much else to say. That's kind of the thing that's going on here with this guy. I think he's extremely good. You can see we're already 20 million in, almost 50 turns. We're not dying. We're surviving. I mean, obviously, we're taking some hits from the Head of Wrath, but that's nothing unusual. But look at the size of those hits when he throws them out there. They're really pretty massive. You can see 20, 15,000 across the board on those damage, with that A1 skill by itself, I think is really good. And yeah, there's a lot of flexibility when using them. And I also think there's a lot of flexibility in how you build him. So, that said, let's go look at how I actually built him, and then we'll come back to the run after. Okay, taking a quick look. This is Graazur. This is how I've built him. As you can see, we've got 4K defense here, 47,000 HP, right? 239 speed, so about 240 speed on this. 100% crit rate, but only 142 crit damage. Definitely can bump that up. But I think what's great about this is it shows you don't need stupid crit damage numbers to put up stupid good damage stats, right? Or damage numbers. Damage stats don't necessarily equate damage numbers when it comes to a champion like this with max HP hits, AoE hits consistently coming through. His multipliers are really good. You can see the accuracy, 348. It's enough to land the debuffs that we want. Now, look, to be fair, I do have great gear on him, right? I went with a Guardian set, and for me, it made the most sense. He can help protect everybody else. He's going to heal himself up as he takes damage along the way. It seemed like a natural fit here. But I do have speed boots that are fully ascended because they give extra speed. So it's not like, these numbers are necessarily attainable for everybody. That said, I am doing Nightmare. So this is not like, normal or brutal or whatever. You can definitely dumb these numbers down and you're going to see even better results. Now, the hard thing I was finding when building this champion, he has solid base stats, right? You can see here, what is it? 102 speed, 1300 defense, 18,000 HP. Those are definitely solid numbers. Even a little bit of extra resistance and accuracy is good. A couple things to note. He only has a 50% crit damage naturally. A lot of champions have like 63. So that's definitely a little bit on the lower side. So just be aware of that. The other thing, even 1300 defense is not particularly high for a defensive based champion. So his base stats aren't crazy. The 18,000 HP is not a crazy high amount. What I found was difficult is building him with a defensive chest and speed boots, is that he was pretty low on HP. I ended up going with HP gloves and making sure I got 100% crit rate through the rest of the gear, just to kind of ensure that we got to the numbers we wanted. I did put an accuracy banner on him, but you can see, like, I don't have crazy gear. I didn't glyph anything for this run. I had some things that were already glyphed, but I didn't do anything special for it. So I could definitely pump up some things, right? Maybe swap out a little bit of gear as a result. But one of the things you're going to have to kind of balance is the amount of defense you put on him versus the amount of HP. He's going to have an increased defense buff on him. Going to have it for the full fight because he extends it as well. So you could go with a lower defense and just say, hey, he's going to get an extra 60% anyway. I'm not as worried about the damage numbers. For me, that's his damage stat, his defense. I want to bump that up as high as I can. I like to start at a base of about 4,000. That's really what I'm looking for. Whenever I build a defensive champion for damage, that's kind of the number I'm aiming for. And then I want to get even higher than that, right? So if I can get to 5,000, that's my real heavy damage dealing. That's what I put my martyr at, my soulless at. Like, that's really what I'm aiming for, Ragash, whatever. 5 to 6,000. I didn't do that with Graazur. Part of the reason is his HP was too low, especially putting him in a Guardian set. I couldn't get his HP with those kind of damage numbers anywhere close to that, right? If I'm going to go with those high defense numbers, one, I'm going to lose speed boots. So then we're going to drop a lot of speed. I didn't really want to do that. I want him cycling his skills. Okay. If I go more damage heavy, like crit damage gloves, all of a sudden our HP drops by about 10,000. So now all of a sudden we're in like that 36, 37,000 range. And with the max HP reduction from the Head of Decay, that's hard to survive with. So there's going to be some choices you're going to have to make as far as what is it you're trying to do? Are we trying to go with, super high defense and go straight damage? Are we trying to go with a balanced approach, almost like I did here? Are we foregoing this HP to like pump another bit of numbers? Do I not even bother with accuracy, which I think might be the best approach, right? If I had skipped accuracy with the banner, I could have put an HP banner on or a defensive banner and pumped up one of the stats I was lacking, allowing me to put crit damage gloves on and really start hitting hard. But I think you're going to see this guy hits hard regardless. You don't need to pump the damage numbers on this guy for him to be an effective damage dealer for your team. And that's the biggest advantage, is that he can be a damage dealer for you while still being a support champion. He's going to make the rest of your team better while dealing damage, not the other way around. So it's a really, really nice champion to have in here. I definitely recommend him if you can get him. He's he's super S tier and it's going to really change the game in a lot of ways. So very excited about that. Just want to, I think that's going to kind of cover him and everything that he can do. So let's jump back to the run. Okay, I'm going to interrupt for a minute just to kind of show you what these skills are, right? We've got this A1, like I said, AoE skill, right? Shield buff. A2 here, AoE skill. Heals this champion by 10% of the damage dealt. This is the one based off enemy max HP. So it's going to be a full heal. It's a really strong one and increases duration of ally buffs. One of the best skills in this game. And then this A3, attacks all enemy, provoke goes out, increase resistance, increase defense, right? All really, really great stuff. And all those damage skills are based off of defense. So here we go, right? No Head of Decay, so we don't have to worry about the provoke, but we're still going to put out those buffs on ourselves here. So I'm going to go ahead and use this skill. Let's see the damage we get. Boom. 19,000, 9,000. Gets pretty decent, right? It's not crazy, but it's a solid damage skill. And you saw the damage that I have on these champions. It's nothing super wild going on here, right? So we have some damage, but it's nothing crazy. And then of course, having Krisk is really nice because we're now extending those buffs yet again, which is always a nice thing. Now I want to get to this A2 here. He has that A1. He's getting some free counterattacks and not my favorite thing. A2. This is the AoE. Damage dealt, the max HP, extend the duration of the buffs. Hopefully, the True Fear doesn't go off. Boom. We can see that 220, 300,000. It's a big hit. That's over 1 million damage. Now, is that as big as somebody like a Husk? I don't think so. You know, give me one more turn and we'll actually find out. I'll have it go off here in a second, and we'll see exactly kind of in comparison how much damage we're doing here. But it's not, probably in all likelihood, it's not going to be the same kind of damage. Effective, yes, but maybe not on that same level exactly. And so we kind of keep that in mind as we're going through with this. And then we should have the A1 coming up here. Boom, you can see that that's on a counterattack, so it's still at 15,000, but it's going to be reduced a little bit because it is off a counterattack ability. But here we go, A1 skill. Let's see what we're talking about here. Boom, 20, 24, 16,000. Significant numbers, to be sure. Those are not small numbers there, especially for an AoE. You can see a Geomancer's doing like 7,000, 8,000 damage. So it's definitely effective. Here's that AoE I was talking about with Husk. 350, 300,000. Definitely a big hit from Husk on this stuff. He's definitely somebody that is going to do more damage. I have him built with more crit damage, but I think it says they're going to be on the same level when it comes to the amount of damage they're going to do. It more or less comes down to how I'm building them. And I'm not going to build, you know, I think this guy provides so much utility that focusing solely on the damage is probably the least of my concerns here. So that's one of the things that we're going to we want to keep in mind as we're going through with it. And building him out, figuring out, you know, how much do I need to put on him? What is it that I do need to emphasize with this guy as far as the damage and such goes? That's always going to be a big factor, right? So that's what we're doing right now. So as you can see, very effective champion, really strong. I'm a huge fan, quite frankly. But I'm going to go ahead, let this go on auto here. I want to free him out first. First, I want him to come out. Okay, so now he's free. I'm gonna go ahead and let this run on auto. I'm not gonna do anything else. We'll see where we get to at the end. So let's talk a little bit about how I built this champion, how you could build your champion if you want to use Graazur on your team. So I focused on survivability, right? I wanted to make sure I had 100% crit rate, so we got the damage from the max HP. And then I wanted to focus on survivability. Now, obviously, defensive base is always a little bit, actually, strangely, a little bit trickier to build sometimes because defense is going to be your damage stat, but you end up building it almost at the expense of HP, which at the higher levels, like something like this, once you get to about 4,000 defense, HP is more valuable for survivability, but obviously we want damage. So there becomes this odd little balance. And for a survive champion like this, someone that can support everybody else, it can get a little tricky, especially when we factor in a couple interesting things about Graazur. He provides a lot of healing with this passive ability for all your allies. So actually building with a lot of HP, I think is a really good way to build him, almost like a Vogoth, right? I opted to put him in Guardian gear. Why? Because one, he's going to be able to heal himself up more as he takes damage. Two, he's going to be able to share the damage from everybody else. And since he's healing them with the damage he takes, it's a really good way, I think, to help, you know, save everybody up here. And so it just made a lot of sense to me, especially already having a Krisk on this team. How would I build him stat wise? I think obviously you want to get to about 4,000 defense. I think that's kind of your minimum, right? That's his damage stat. You also maximize your damage mitigation at that point. So it's really a good way to go. Outside of that, what are you trying to do here, right? He's going to buff himself with the increased defense buff. But outside of that defense, I think we do want to make his HP as big as possible. The more damage he takes, the more he heals your allies. So you don't necessarily need another healer on your team. I think Graazur actually can do that for you. You might want somebody to help top things off, but he's healing a lot, right, off the damage that he's taking. And he does heal himself with that A2 ability. The unkillable passive really helps in case he does take a big hit. In between there, the fact his skills are all on 3-turn cooldowns, they're going to cycle quite quickly, faster, in fact, especially the max HP hit, than any of the other champions that we use for that role in this game. So there is a lot to like about him as far as, you know, him being survival. But my thing was, I want him to survive. I want him to be fast so he can cycle those skills. So what's the best thing to do here? Well, obviously build speed on it, right? My Husk is like 202 speed. My I think my Geomancer is maybe like 220. I really wanted my Graazur to be faster than as many people as I can. So I think he's up to about 240 speed right now. But as I said, I went more in a direction that I think is going to be best for people out there, not myself, right? I think it's going to be a way that many of you are going to go. I think that obviously because he gives himself increased resistance, building resistance on him would be fantastic, but I also don't think that's always going to be practical. It's very hard to build resistance and accuracy on a champion. Very hard to do that by adding speed. And then it's almost impossible to do all of that while adding crit rate as well. So because there's so many things that you would want to put on him, and it just does not seem very practical to do so, I cannot help but think to myself that instead of all that, what we really should be doing here is just focusing on making sure that we can do the things that we really need. So I'm going to have to choose. Is it damage? Is it resistance? Is it accuracy? What is he doing best for my team in this role? For me, I wanted a secondary provoke champion to pair with Krisk. Krisk is great, but he's not going to keep it up 100% of the time. If I have Graazur in there, between the two of them, we should be able to keep provoke all the time. So I definitely wanted to focus on the accuracy part. You already have a provoker, then you don't need that. You can focus on other things, right? I definitely wanted damage, but it wasn't my main thing. I really wanted him to be able to survive so I could showcase him best, right? And so what did I want to do? Let's go ahead, let's forego the resistance. I've got Krisk in there, I've got Sify in there. Both of them are going to be able to do the resistance role for me. Instead of that, let me go as far as like a mischief tank. So instead of that, let me forego resistance, let me build accuracy, and then we'll add damage where we can. But I want survivability even before damage, right? So I put HP gloves on him with some crit rate and some speed and some defense, right? I put defensive chest on, speed boots, right? To try and make it work the best that I could. But that's kind of the balance of how you want to build them. If you want to go full damage, I think you can do that with this champion 100%. AoE skills, max HP hits. I think he's going to be a great damage champion for you, better than a Royal Guard in a lot of ways, right? On top of that, he's giving buffs for your team. So like he's doing a lot of really good stuff for your squad. And so using him purely as that could be a great way to go. Put up crit damage gloves on him. Don't worry as much about his survivability. 100% recommend that. But those are the choices that we're going to want to make. So, things like Guardian gear, Defiant gear, Stalwart gear, regen gear. I think those are going to be your mainstays. And then on top of that, we're going to be able to use things like perception or resistance or, to kind of buff up the stats that we're looking to get out of this. Speed gear will be great. I know on my free to play, I would probably just build him with accuracy and as much speed as possible and try to build in another resistance champion on my team. But every account's going to be a little different. Every team's going to be a little different depending who you bring in. If you don't have a Krisk, then you're gonna, maybe you're using a Molly or somebody else for the provoke. Well, maybe you don't need Graazur. Maybe you got your main provoke champion. You don't need him. Cool. Then forgo the accuracy. Maybe you don't need accuracy or resistance. Great. Then build him for damage. Either way, he's very versatile, and I think that's the advantage that a champion like this has on your account. We can see the results here. I would say pretty darn good. Graazur did 26 million damage. That's more damage, or about the same, just slightly less damage than Geomancer and Husk did combined. He's an insanely strong champion. And this kind of result is consistent with the couple runs I've done before this. He's going to hit hard. He's going to hit AoE, which for Hydra is amazing. And he's going to do it on very short cooldown. So he's going to be able to cycle those abilities back and forth over and over and over again. You don't have to build him full damage to get crazy damage numbers out of him. This guy is absolutely insane. So as you guys can see, Graazur is freaking amazing. Super awesome champion. If you get him, count your blessings. This is an SS tier champion. He is at the top of the list. He's right up there with champions like Krisk, Duchess, Acrizia. He's extremely good. He brings the utility of some of those other champions while still bringing damage. It's a very rare combination. He's the only champion actually that I can think of in this game that does that. Nobody else that I know of brings that support kind of kit while bringing damage as well. I can't wait to try him in Clan Boss. I think he's going to break the game for me there, and I'm very excited about it. So anyway, guys, that's what we got for today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, SoundStripe link down below, all that fun stuff. Thanks again, guys. Till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.